And we're coming to you with a really fun show today. We've got Richard Botto of Stage 32, and if you're in the TV and film production or anything related to the entertainment industry, you need to know about this. So I'm going to let Debbie Ellickson, my co-host, introduce Richard, and we'll be chatting along the way.
Well, Richard, I have to thank you so much for coming on the show. I wouldn't have known about Stage 32 if it wasn't for a friend of mine, James Joseph Hinton III. And once I jumped into Stage 32, what appealed to me so much is it is such a warm and giving community, and considering that when you think about it, most of the people that are in there are also competitors. So I have to ask you how you came up with the idea, and then let's talk a little bit about the mechanics behind it, because all of a sudden, did you just sit at the kitchen table one day and think, I'm going to start a social network? So tell us a little bit about Stage 32 and then how you came up with it.
Well, it's kind of ironic because I'm sort of the anti-social network guy, but it kind of plays into why we started it. And I was never a Facebook guy, just strictly for the fact that I didn't feel, from a professional standpoint, that it would help. As a creative, I didn't think it would really help. It seems more like a friends and family type of thing, and all the people that I want to, share pictures of my dog with, I kind of have on my cell phone. I could text them. So, being in the business as long as I have, I've been around the business for about 10 years. I've seen a lot, and I've seen a lot of people who struggle to make contacts. A lot of people that aren't in Hollywood, and not everybody needs to be in Hollywood, obviously, to succeed. I mean, there's industry all over the world, but still, the need to make contacts and to network, it doesn't come easy for a lot of people. A lot of people don't run in circles. A lot of creatives don't run in circles with other creatives. Their friends work in other businesses and so on and so forth. So it became apparent to me and to my partners that when we looked at the landscape, there really wasn't a really productive form, a productive network for creatives. I mean, LinkedIn has its merits, but you look at those forums, it's a lot of spam, it's a lot of me. So we wanted to create a positive environment where people from all over the world could connect 24/7, 365, and where talent level didn't matter, that we would have all levels of talent, and where geography didn't matter, where, a person that's in India could connect with a person who's in Edmonton, and, and have that happen 24/7, 365, like I said. And that was really kind of the impetus of it, was how do we get creatives, and not only just to connect, obviously to find work, although that's a huge part of it, or to get there, to get exposure, but also to be educated, to also help further their education, to have a writing group, a virtual writing group, have a writing group online where you could share, your materials, acting groups where you could share tips, things that happen, or experiences, things that happen in an audition that, you learn from. That kind of support. And I like to say that creativity is global and it's universal. It's a universal language no matter where you are, and creatives share a common bond. So why not create a network where everybody could come together and share in what inspires them? And that was really kind of the impetus of Stage 32.
Even so, if you're the social media guy, that's a huge undertaking to start a social network, particularly for an industry that is very creative, and the mechanics behind it. So how did you even figure that out?
Well, it took some planning. I mean, and again, I think being in the business, I think, I had the advantage of being able to listen to, well, for lack of a better way of putting it, a lot of bitching and moaning. What wasn't working for people. What they were lacking, where they needed support and weren't, where they weren't getting it. The problems of finding a job or finding a connection that could lead to, let's say, a casting agent or maybe a literary manager and that type of thing. And, to be frank, as an actor, a screenwriter, and producer, I've experienced these things. I've experienced the highs and the lows, the promises, the promise is not kept, all that. And so it became kind of easy to say, or to figure out, this is what we need to put into the network to give every single person that joins support, opportunity, a chance to further their careers and their dreams. And most importantly, I like to say that there's a lot of roads to success when it comes to being a creative, but there's really only one dead end, and that's quitting. And really, the number one reason why people fail, creatives fail, is because they quit. And the reason that they quit is because they don't have the network or the support system to give them the confidence to stay in the game. So everything that we put into the site was kind of built around that. And even though we're a social network, I like to say that we're a little bit broader than that. We're a social network, but one of the biggest things that we're trying to bring into the site, and we continue to bring in, our blog is one area, for example, it's won awards, is education. And that's going to be a continuing focus. So it's not just a place where people can congregate and, again, hopefully further their careers and everything like that, but also where they can learn, also where they can, continue their education, which, I feel is a lifelong endeavor.
Well, the management of it has to be huge as well, because one of the things that I do notice on Stage 32, as opposed to all the other networks I've been involved with, including maybe not so much Google Plus, but Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn have certainly been guilty of this. You don't have any spam, and you don't have any of those buy my product. So that has to be quite an undertaking. Surely there are those elements in there.
And there are. I mean, a lot of people think, we have 125,000 members. The site is pretty vast. There's a lot of features. We're constantly adding them. The thought is always, my God, like you guys must have, 100 people on your staff. How many employees do you have? There's only 2 people working on this thing full time. And one is, yeah, it's true. I mean, one's in front of the scenes.
Are you serious?
One's in front of the scenes and one's behind the scenes. One's doing the coding, and you're looking at the guy that's out in front of it. And it is a huge undertaking. And I think sometimes that gets lost in the mix sometimes with certain people in the community, but not many. I mean, one of the things you brought up very early on is that it's a positive environment. And I think one of the reasons it's a positive environment is because the people there's a core group of people in this community that are very, very selfless in giving. There's sort of a misconception in the way that all creatives are narcissists. And there are some, I'm not going to say okay, but there's also a selflessness and a penchant to give that, a true collaborator has on and off the set. You always hear that, for example, acting isn't what you're giving, it's what you're hearing. It's the listening that really is the acting. Well, I think it's the same way in any creative's life. I think that you need to be a listener first and sort of, you need ears first, mouth second. And we have a lot of people that are like that. It's one of the reasons why it was very, very important from the beginning, in my opinion, and it was one of the strategies of the business, was that I'm out in front of it all the time. You see my face on your wall the second you join, you get a message from me. And if you write to me, I'm going to respond. I try to respond to everybody. I also run our Twitter page. I run our Facebook page because I think it's important. I think it's important that you're hearing from me. And we make it very, very clear. We made it very clear early on that this is going to be a positive environment. We're not going to censor anybody. We're also not going to accept anybody being abusive to another member. You can speak your mind. Debate is a great thing, and we welcome debate. It's one of the reasons we run the blog and we put up certain posts that, are controversial sometimes, just to get debate going. And what ends up happening is it's the debate that goes on is really, really smart. It's intelligent. It's well conceived, and then it's not abusive, and it's just not an abusive environment. One of the things we were really concerned about early on was that we were going to have to really police this thing in a big way. And what ended up happening in a very surprising manner is that the community started policing itself. And, if somebody did come in and make a comment, there'd be 50 people, running behind, or abusive comment, I should say. There'd be 50 people running in to say, hey, that's not right. Speak your mind, but let's keep it nice. Like, we're all here to learn, and we're all here to help each other. And I think that that's been one of the beautiful things, and one of the different things as opposed to any other social network as far as Stage 32. And then just one more quick thing, Debbie, you mentioned, the amount of spam and garbage on some of these other sites. And that's one of the problems I have with LinkedIn. It's just that there is a lot of spam. We have a zero spam policy, and there's a reason for that. Everybody is in here, everybody's in the site to promote themselves. Many of them have Kickstarter or Indiegogo campaigns, and that's fine. And we understand that, and we don't have a problem with them going out and asking for support or asking, can you do this for me? But what we ask them to do is to not spam it out there, to do it in a way that's sort of natural in a conversation, and to try to follow the guideline of being a giver first and an asker second. And give first, take second. And a lot of people have just done that naturally. We haven't had to remind them, and that's been sort of the beautiful thing about the site. It's an incredible community. It inspires me every day, and to be perfectly frank, I couldn't be more proud of it. I mean, it's just amazing every day when I go on there just to see how incredible the community is and how supportive they are of one another. It's just terrific.
It is terrifically supportive, and it's funny because if somebody had posted, you see the people that are just starting out. There's so many that are just new. They've got this dream that they want to work in the industry, whatever position it may be, and they'll post and they'll ask a question which is definitely shows that their naivety. And if that question was posted on another network, they'd get beat up on. People would be, what the hell are you thinking? Whereas in here, when you see the responses, it's very, like you say, well thought out, and they're helpful. Here's where you should go to, learn more about this. And I'm so impressed by that. And with regarding the blog, you've got some very interesting educational pieces in there, and I'm thinking of one in particular who his advice, I actually spread it on my other social networks because his advice was universal to everything. Gary Craig, I think his blog was "Should Her Get Off the Post" or "Should Her Get Off the Pot" was his blog title, and basically how to engage. If you're going to be in here, engage. If you don't want to engage, get out.
It's the truth. I mean, a lot of, you see it on Twitter all the time. I mean, our account has 57,000 plus followers at the moment and growing, and people will see that. People will stumble upon us either via retweet or a favorite or whatever, and immediately will say, hey, have you checked out Stage 32, have you checked out my Indiegogo campaign? And my response is, you and everybody else. And if you're not if you're not a member of the Stage 32 community, first of all, I'm not going to retweet you. Second of all, what you're kind of giving me at that point is the fact that you haven't even taken a look at what we're doing and what Stage 32 is about, and the fact that you can go onto the network and you could promote this, and you could figure out a way to, market yourself, and like I always say, you are your own brand, and go out and market your own brand. And it's amazing, but that is the nature of the business. You can have some really selfish people. The thing about LinkedIn, for example, that I find, you talked about the Gary Craig article, which was a great one. And "Should Her Get Off the Pot" is definitely indicative of Gary's personality. But Gary's inspiration. I mean, here's a guy that later on in life decided to pursue acting and went after it with everything, and now he's going to be in David O. Russell's new film. I mean, it's just an incredible story. I posted that story on LinkedIn, and it's amazing. Like, the first 3 or 4 responses were about the article, and people sharing their experiences, and then the next 20 posts were about, yeah, but this doesn't work for anybody. If you're over 30, Hollywood spits you out. And, give up your dreams. You got to be an idiot. And I'm like, wow, unbelievable.
Right.
It just, and it turned into this sort of sociological discussion by the time it was all over. And I was like, wow, well, that kind of went horribly awry. But on the site, you know, there was a billion comments,
Yeah.
and the thing is, you know, and then Gary came in and responded to them all, and that's what we ask our bloggers. You know, first of all, anybody that guest blog is a member of the site, and you know, we've got everybody from film students to Academy Award nominees write for the blog, and they, you know, they're responsible for their writing in the way that they take pride in it enough.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not just going to throw this out to make myself look great and to show everybody that, A, you know, I've done, you know, look at all I've accomplished, and B, look what a tremendous writer I am. It's, hey, I'm giving this to you. Now, what else can I give you? What else, you know, ask me questions, you know, let me help you. If there was something that, you know, struck you, let me know about it. Maybe I could guide you based on my experiences. And that's the beauty of it. And that goes on all through the site, in the lounge, you know, it's in the blogs. And we're going to be adding more, as I mentioned, you know, more education to the site where people are going to have the opportunity to ask more questions, but also be able to have materials that, you know, should help them in whatever their creative endeavors are, whether it's writing or acting or filmmaking, producing, whatever it is.
That would actually be really cool, and the reason why I say that is we are stepping out, Debbie and I, not having really been in this industry and starting a webcasting and a webcast. And I think we're just kind of being gutsy and just doing it and not really letting sort of that background voice in our head saying, well, you haven't done this before, or you didn't go to film school, or whatever it was going on in our heads. We're just doing it. And my question for you is, will there be educational moments where people are getting on and sort of mentoring people through this process? Because it's really about learning about this world that we now can, that various people can be a part of. What are your thoughts on that? Like how to help people who are newbies at this get their feet wet?
Well, and you know, let me just take it from a slightly different angle and come right back around to it.
Okay.
One of the reasons why we started the site, when I was in film school, when I was taking acting classes when I was younger, you know, you'd come out of those classes and you'd feel good. You know, your teacher would tell you you're doing great. You do a student film, it's well received, and everybody's pumping you up. And then you get out and you have no contacts. You have nowhere to go. And again, this is why a lot of students, very talented students, kind of drift off and leave their creative dreams behind. So from the standpoint of creating a very inviting environment for novices and a place where they can learn from other people in the community who have achieved so much, that was always part of the plan. So there is that sort of educational aspect to newbies in that regard. But we also are going to, you know, the idea is to bring in sort of experts in the field, people who have accomplished a significant amount in their chosen profession, and bring them in to do, you know, webinars, chats, you know, maybe even just Q&As. You know, we have a bunch of different ideas in the pipeline, and they're starting to be implemented as we go. But the idea is not only, you know, you say newbies, but I feel like in every respect, no matter how much you've achieved, that you're still a newbie in some respect. And it's true, because I know some people in this business. I have some friends who have been, again, you know, Academy Award nominated writers, and you know, were at the top of the world at one time, and now are struggling to get the next project off the ground, to get the next script sold, or put together financing. It's a tough business. There's always something to learn, and it's constantly changing, as we're seeing with, you know, the crowdfunding and the Kickstarter and the latest controversy, for example, with Zach Braff's Kickstarter campaign. Should a guy that has access to money be going on Kickstarter? But this is the brave new world. You know, the Veronica Mars film being funded on. It's a brave new world. It's constantly changing. So in my opinion, there's always going to be room for education, whether you're a newbie or whether you're accomplished. And we want to service it from both angles. You know, we want to, it's sort of a continuing education thing, and it's a sort of, you know, I'm new to this and I need guidance, I need help, what can I do? So we'll have all levels of that coming into the site. And it's one of the reasons with the blog. Like, we're running a blog this morning from a gentleman in the UK. He's an actor. He decided, you know, when he was younger, he had dreams of being an actor and a singer. And he decided at 35 to give it a go, and he's had some really, really cool success in a short period of time. But this complements, he's a newbie. This complements a blog like Claire Kilner's last week, and Claire has directed some big Hollywood films, including, the one, God, I can't remember the blank, I just said it, but the wedding date,
Yeah.
with Deborah Messing. I mean, she's done studio films. She did Mandy Moore's first film. I mean, these are studio films, $15 million, $30 million films. She just sold a pilot to Universal, to NBC, but it's still, you're still not trying to get the next thing off the ground. She's trying to get the funding for her next film. I mean, it's a constant battle, and she's trying to figure out the best way to go about it, because the traditional methods aren't really traditional anymore. There's really nothing that's traditional anymore about this business on any level. So I think it's, education is a constant thing, and we'll have it, we'll have a very broad spectrum of it going forward, as far as newbies to accomplish.
Wow. And, the other aspect about it too, I was going to bring back to the conversation about what you mentioned before about attitudes and just staying positive and all those things. And for people who don't really know much about this industry, what would you say is the biggest myth that you're hearing about this creative industry, about the entertainment industry? What's the biggest myth about it? And how would you respond to it?
Well, I think the biggest myth is that the walls of Hollywood are 1,000 feet high. I think that, and I don't know if it's necessarily a myth or if it's a sort of a misconception in a way. I think that everybody thinks that Hollywood is the place to be, and the reality is that a lot of your filming is going on outside of Hollywood. I mean, with the tax incentives around the world these days, and especially in certain states here in the U.S., filming happens everywhere. A lot of television happens in New York. And, I think that people need to get beyond the idea that, well, let me put it a different way. There's a lot of stigmatisms, and there's a lot of misconceptions, like I said earlier, about if you're over 30, this isn't going to happen. If you're, if you're too old, you're too young, you can't be a leading lady because of this. And my answer to that is it's well, I'm going to say it. I don't know if I can curse on this show. I don't think the FCC is going to be listening, but I think it's bullshit. And I think that it's confused. And I think that, I know Debbie, you were kind of throwing the bombs before, so.
What?
Outed.
But I just think that all excuses. I think the myth is that you can't do it. I think that the myth is. Did we lose you? Did I lose me? Can you guys still see me?
No, you're good. You're good. We see.
Okay. I just think that the myth is that you can't do it. I think people make excuses, and so it's a broad answer, but it's the right answer. I hear excuses all the time. And yes, within the studio system, I've had those meetings, and there's a lot of crap that you got to deal with. And, a lot of the people that are running at the top, the people that run the top of these things are business people and not creative people, but they think they are. And yes, those are the challenges and all this other stuff. But for people who are trying to, make a film, and, people are telling them, you're starting too late. Go out and shoot the damn thing. Go out and, if you want to be an actor and you're 40 years old, 50 years old, 60 years old, 70 years old, go take a class. Don't let anyone tell you no. I mean, that's the big myth. The big myth is really just the things that people allow them to be beaten down by, which is usually other people's opinions.
So it's never too late to start your dream, basically, and if that's what you're into, go for it. We have the opportunity to do that now. How can these people get started? What's your tip there, your suggestion for getting started?
Well, I mean, obviously, from a personal standpoint, I would say, and I don't want to say a selfish standpoint because I don't gain anything from it, but join Stage 32 and have a support system online. But then find your support system offline as well. We encourage a lot of people on Stage 32 to find people in their area, which is very easy to do because there's search criteria within the site, find people in your area, form a group, and take your meeting offline. Stage 32 meetups happen all over the world all the time. And we really, really recommend that people do that. We say, you know, find yourself a support group and go. You know, go meet offline, meet once a week, meet once a month. Find yourself a writing group, find yourself an acting group, or just find a group of creators. You don't have to all, you know, there's a group in New York. I got invited to go join their meeting a few weeks ago. It was just stage actors, film actors, screenwriters, producers, filmmakers. I mean, it was everything. And the conversation was fantastic. I mean, the ideas that are being bounced off one another is terrific. And a lot of these people met on Stage 32, and they just took this thing basically to a bar every, you know, once a week. And they've got themselves an area, and, you know, they talk, and they bounce ideas.
Wow.
So, I mean, that's definitely my recommendation to get started. The other thing is, you know, try to find yourself, if you can't afford, you know, to pay for classes, look around, see if your community center offers classes. There's a lot of opportunities in a lot of areas if you just do the research, you know, to be able to go out and take a class and to find like-minded people who aren't going to tell you that you're insane for following your dream.
Well, you know, that's the bottom line. We live in a world where sort of the old structure of mass media is kind of having the carpet pulled out from under them a little bit, and people are really able to come together for the first time as individuals as part of a larger global community. And this is super exciting because it's not based on a Hollywood Rolodex anymore. I mean, there are people that are making it big on YouTube. So, you know, no excuses. I love what you're saying with this whole thing.
People have secured deals, you know, sitcom deals, web series deals off of posts on Twitter. You know, I mean, film deals off of posts on Twitter.
I know someone in prison who's writing a 22-episode series of, you know, screenplays for TV. And it's just fascinating that, you know, not even someone in prison has an excuse.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if he's going to be able to visit the set, but, you know. But yeah,
he'll be out.
Your point is taken, though. I mean, there's no excuse. I mean,
right.
It's a very negative world in a lot of ways. I mean, you bring up, you watch the news, you want to, you know, kind of run out into traffic, and but the reality is that negativity that's around you is one thing. You control what's in your head. You control your mind, and it's your choice to be positive or negative. And my advice to any creative is to stay positive, to have thick skin, to understand that for every 100 responses you're going to get, 99 maybe no, and but all it takes is that one yes. And I think that's if you get yourself into that mentality and into that mindset, and you allow yourself to be patient, and you allow yourself to utilize your time while you're waiting to get that yes to improve yourself, to better yourself, you're going to win. You're going to succeed. And it's the strong survive. I hate to use a cliche, but it's the truth, especially when it comes to being a creative. The strong, you have to hang on, and you have to keep going. Like I said,
so if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying get on to we now have platforms to get to know people worldwide. Get on stage32.org, build relationships, be part of a community.
.com.
Sorry.
Come on,
I apologize. Take classes and have a no excuses, just do it mentality to keep your mindset positive and moving forward. This is advice that would be so helpful for all.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'll give one really quick success story.
Okay.
Since we have Debbie up in Edmonton, we'll use it. I'll give a Canadian success story, a knucklehead success story. We have a Canadian screenwriter recently who, he's written about 5 or 6 screenplays, had a couple of them optioned, a couple of them started following that path, and that's what happens. You go along that path, and then things fall apart. It's just the nature of things. Well, he had a World War II screenplay. He connected with a filmmaker in India, and the guy asked him for the script, had him rewrite a couple of scenes, optioned it, and they're going into production. I think it's within the next few weeks or the next month.
Awesome.
I mean, again, now that's an amazing story on a lot of levels. One, clearly this guy was going the traditional methods of taking his screenplays and trying to send them into Hollywood and trying to find, a manager or a production company that would shepherd the script, so to speak. This was an untraditional way. This was not traditional. He connected with a filmmaker in India. And that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen out your front door. But amazingly enough, in this day and age, it could happen while you're sitting in your underwear. So, and now he's, now it's, and they've already, and they just secured, I forgot the best part of this, they just secured worldwide distribution for the film.
Wow. So Canadian hits Bollywood, takes over the world. That's awesome.
From from sitting on his ass in his Calvins, what I mean? That is that's the way it is.
And this is something that would have never happened 20 years ago, or maybe even 10 years ago, honestly.
No.
5 years ago.
It's a brave new world. It's a brave. Well, people will always tell you this is another myth. Okay, you want a myth? I'll give you a myth. People say it's harder than ever. It's harder than ever to break in. And I say that is such garbage because you have more outlets that need content than ever before. You have, with the advent of the web and YouTube and, now Netflix is doing original programming and you have all these other outlets that are going to start doing original programming. The possibilities have grown tremendously, but also what the social media world has created, and especially, in my opinion, Stage 32 has created, because we have members in 186 countries, and just for the record, there's only 194 of them out there. So, what that's opened up is the opportunity for people to be able to be recognized in another country as well. It doesn't just have to be in their backyard. And I think the opportunities have multiplied in a lot of ways. I think this idea that oh my God, it's just so tough, it's so hard, and it's an excuse. It's an excuse.
Yeah.
There are people out there, there are producers out there all over the world, and they need material, and they need actors, and they need financing, and financiers that want to find projects, and they don't care where they're coming from. It could be from anywhere in the world. They just, they need material. So, it's just another one of these excuses and another one of these myths that, I'll say needs to be busted, and, that you need to dismiss. You just need to get it out of your head.
Yeah.
This is an amazing, awesome story. So one thing that we're trying to do here is connect people that are used to traditional media with new forms of media possibilities that are happening globally in real time, like this. Mm-hmm. So my question for you, to sort of round out the show, would be if you could challenge any person today or people today to do something this week, what would it be to move the needle?
I'm going to give two things.
Okay.
They're both going to kind of revolve around volunteering. I think for your spiritual self, go out and volunteer in something that's outside of the creative realm. Go out and do something good for your soul, something that helps other people, something that, gives something. And then, on the creative end, it's the same thing. Instead of logging into Stage 32 or going to your screenwriting group or your acting group, your acting class, and asking, what can you do for me? Ask them, what can I do for you? Read somebody else's script, listen to somebody else run a monologue, have a filmmaker or producer pitch you on an idea so you can help them with their pitch. Be selfless. And I think that, it's not just for this week, but I think you should do it once a week, every week.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's great.
Good for the mind, and it's good karma. It'll come back to you.
And it's applicable to everybody too. That's what's going to really make world change. So,
I agree.
awesome.
I agree. Don't get.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I think what you guys are doing
Thank
is
you.
terrific. Terrific.
Uh-huh.
Nice. Well, stay in touch, and I've got some people that want to meet you, actually, that have reached out to me on G+, so I'll send them your direction, and also to stage32.com.
Absolutely.
And just to let you all know, next week we're going to be featuring Chef Larry Fanillier out of Trinidad, along with Serena Bland and several other people, about how they're using webcasting to produce on their own online cooking shows. So it's a really fun talk that we're going to have next week, and it should be mouth-watering as well.
Trinidad, you see? Again,
Yeah.
connecting the world. You're connecting the world. I think it's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. Join us next week for virtual Newsmakers on G+ Hangouts at noon on Fridays, Eastern Time. See y'all later.